my YouTube friends! Now, I've done videos about OBSBOT cameras in the past. Of course, you've seen the Tail 2 video. Incredible, incredible camera. And you've seen the Tail Air right here. Nice and pint size. But this video is going to be about this incredible little thing. This is the Tiny 3, and it's an absolute mind blower considering the size and all of those things. You got to see this thing. So let's get into it. Now, if you want to check out the OBSBOT Tiny 3 for yourself, there are links down below in the description. And really, it's hard to find a better value for a small creator than something like this. It's a PTZ camera. It does practically everything you could possibly imagine. But you know what? Don't take my word for it. Let's check it out right now. So the OBSBOT Tiny 3 box is just what you'd expect. It's pretty tiny. But it does come with a rather large instruction manual. Tells you everything you need to know. And you also get this very, very cool carrying case right here. If we open it up, it comes with our camera over here and a nice mount that will mount it to monitors or just desktops. Of course, it also has a hole on the bottom so you can mount it to the top of a tripod if you like. Now, this base piece is incredibly magnetic. So it ain't coming off of there once you stick it on there. It's very, very nice. You don't have to worry that it's going to fly off unless you're mounting it maybe to the outside of a moving car or something like that. It's not going anywhere. It's going to stick there, which means that you can mount it to the top of your monitor. Has a little edge right here. Just clip it right on there and adjust it any way you want on here. And most people are probably going to use it that way, but I love the fact that I can also mount this on a tripod, carry it around, do whatever. It has a carrying case, so you can take this camera anywhere. And most people won't ever even notice it because it's so darn tiny. I mean, I cannot believe how ridiculously small this thing is. Now, it also has inside the packaging a USB-C cable with a dongle that you can turn it into a regular USB in case you don't have USB-C. All right, so when you first open your OBSBOT Center, you can see your camera by clicking here. Needless to say, you can't bring it into OBS if your camera is being viewed like this. You can do all of the different things you're going to see in here by just bringing the camera in directly when you turn this off, or you could bring it in through other ways. And I'll go through connecting this to OBS or any other OBS-like product in a little bit. But first, let's talk about what you could do with this. Right here, this will basically put your camera to sleep. You can record right here. You can see your record settings if you drop this down. You could change your resolution. For your recording, you record in slow motion or normal, and you can see your preview right here. And you can start your virtual camera right here, which is another way that you can connect it to OBS or Zoom or any other program. So you've got some selections here for your recording that you can set up. Right here, you can turn the virtual camera on right from this button right here. Here is the beauty panel. Pretty interesting. So you've got your background right here. And basically this enables you to turn on blur. It'll blur your background, but the way that I have my camera set up, it's already blurred pretty good. You can blur it more or less. You can use the native or advanced. It looks pretty good. Although if you notice, when I turn it off, then it turns off. So when you boot up the camera, it kind of seems to put this on anyways. So I'm going to just go ahead and put it in native like that. And to me, that seems like much more of a natural look. And we can adjust the actual level of the blur if we want. We can also do a background replacement. So we could flip this on. We can upload pictures that we like and use them as background images right here. This also does green screen enhancement. So if you have a green or blue screen, you can use this to enhance that. It gives you 4 different options for backgrounds that you can load up. I loaded these 2 up just to give you 2 different examples of what it looks like. And it looks pretty good. It really does. So that would be your background stuff. If we go into retouch, we can set it up to retouch faces, bodies, makeup, all that sort of stuff. I mean, if you're into the unnatural look, there you go. We can also go to filters, where it's going to adjust filters on the camera. It's kind of like Instagram stuff. And then when we go over here to more, we can have it track your eyes. I can turn this on, and even though I'm looking at the screen over here, it will keep my eyes on the camera. To me, this is really, really uncanny and weird looking. But, you know, some people may love it. Some people may love it. I think this is part of the problem with AI altogether, is that people are using features like this, and it just makes everything look like it's AI. However, it may not bother you. Bothers me. It's not a thing I would use, but it's always up to you. So that's pretty much the beauty thing. The next one right here is the avatar thing. Very cool. Let's take a quick look at this. First, it asks you to restart OBSBOT Center in administrative mode, so it has administrative rights. Then it's going to go ahead and ask you to log in, and that's really simple. You just put in an email address, it sends you a code, you put in the code, and then it's going to ask you to go ahead and download this piece of the software for all your avatars. Then you might get a couple of these things where it just asks you to allow different things. If you have a firewall, it might be blocked, and some other stuff. Once you get through all that stuff, you can go ahead and just click the start, and you can see that we come up to a character select. So you can scroll through all of the character selects, pick whichever one you want, come down here, put your name in, and just click next. Now you go up and you select the scene that you want to put your character in, and each scene has its own different special effects, as you'll see right here. So you could just turn those on, and as many of them as you want by clicking that. We can go next, and you can select items that you want to put in your avatar's hand. So you've got bats and different things you can stick in the hand, or nothing. Click next, and now all you have to do is select what camera you want to use. If you have multiple cameras up here, and we could just select our Tiny right there, and boom. So now we've got hand tracking on, so it'll track my hand when I move it around, and leg tracking if I were standing up. We could turn on finger tracking. We can adjust this all the way up if we would like, and you're gonna see it works pretty well. Not too bad. And we can do face tracking, because as you can see, my mouth isn't really moving, nothing's happening. Well, we can adjust this all the way up. When I blink, it'll blink. When I move my mouth, it'll move its mouth. And it will track the hands. We can adjust all of those things. So now we're all set. This is basically a free avatar that we can use anytime. And we don't have to have it set up to physically track us if we don't want. We can just basically have it a static camera like that, and it will do exactly what we want it to do. It'll stay focused on us. This works pretty well, and it's totally free. There are a bunch of different ones we can choose from, and I won't be surprised at all if those choices expand, or they may even allow you to add your own, which is really pretty cool. And the last one over here is more, and it gives you a remote interaction. We can do a teleprompter, remote controller, global hotkeys, and OSC, which are different features to connect to this camera. Down here in the console, you can see once again we've got high frames per second recording, 120 frames per second at 1080, or 120 frames per second at 720, which is essentially allows you to do some slow motion stuff. It's very, very cool. You can just click slow motion or normal, and then you could click the record right here to do any of that. Here we have AI tracking, and they keep making this better every time I check it out. So you've got single mode or group mode. Single mode, it will just track one thing, like me. Group mode will obviously try to track an entire group of people, animals, whatever, cars. You can put your auto zoom off, which is what I have now. We could do full body, upper body, close-up shots, headless shots, and lower body shots. You got your zone tracking. This is really cool. So you can set up different zones. So if you have multiple cameras in a large area, this camera will patrol a specific zone, and then it will get picked up by another camera. It's very, very cool. Sound source assisted tracking. That's right. This camera has a microphone, And we'll test that out in a little bit. But even more important than that, you can set it up so it will follow sound. And that is what sound source assisted tracking is. Now you've got object tracking where you can select a specific object for it to follow. And you've got your tracking, speed, slow, standard, and fast. Now I can tell it to track me, like going like that. And you can see what slow looks like. And then we'll put it on standard. And then fast. And there's a significant difference in how it tracks you. You can turn off tracking by just holding up your hand. Boom, tracking is off. Now it's not going to follow me around. So track speed is definitely significantly different when you change the modes up. And here is the voice tracking, pretty cool. So we can have it voice track in range for omnidirectional or forward. So basically it will just track my voice. You've also got desk mode, hand tracking, and whiteboard, so you can have it focus on any one of those things. And then we'll track presets, so you can set up the camera to look at 3 different specific locations. And then what it'll do is when you use a hotkey or a voice command, it will just move the camera to those specific locations. And then of course you've got your view and your gimbal. Right now we're in a wide angle, right there, medium, narrow, and it will stick to that even if we ask it to track us. It will keep that narrow angle. You can also directly adjust the gimbal. You're gonna maybe want to have it work a specific way for you. It's just a matter of coming up with the right combinations to put in to get exactly what you want. But I can tell you right now that whatever the combination is that you want, it exists, and it's definitely something that you can create. So the next box over here is image. We can do HDR. It takes a couple of seconds for it to adjust, but there you go. We can adjust our focus to autofocus or global face, whatever we want. So it will automatically focus on that. You've got your exposure where you can adjust for auto exposure or global. We can compensate. We can also set up our ISO limits, and that is for dark filming and that sort of stuff. So if I turn the lights off, it will automatically adjust. There's almost no light in here, and it does get a touch grainier in here, but it does a really nice job of what is essentially a dark room other than the lights back there, turning it into a really usable image. And there we go. It takes a couple seconds for it to readjust and figure everything out, but once it does, it really does a nice job with those images. So that's exposure. You get your anti-flicker where you could change this around, and that would be if you're using like a screen in the background or a light that has a specific frequency. You can change it up on here so it doesn't flicker on camera. White balance, you can auto adjust or change the tint or temperature of the image. And then of course image, where you can adjust the contrast, saturation, sharpness, and hue. So all of your image adjustment stuff is right here. If we go into more, here you've got your initial device state so you can reset it back. Device sleep, very cool. It will just take the camera, it will face it down, put it to sleep. It's completely done. It's very simple to just set it up to auto sleep after 2 minutes if that's what you decide to do. So we've got gesture control, which I showed you a little bit before, where you can lock it on a target by doing this. You'll see the light flash and then it will automatically follow me around. I can go ahead and stop it. We can zoom it in by going like this, and then it will zoom it out when you do it again. And there you go. And we can use the dynamic zoom, which is like this, where it'll take it, and then I can go ahead and do this to zoom out or in. Pretty cool. Voice control. I love this. Totally new. Voice locator. If I move off the screen, we could turn on the voice locator, assuming that it's turned on. Hi, Tiny. Track me. And there we go. It will automatically track me. Voice controls work incredibly well. We can adjust the audio with the built-in mic and use spatial audio mode. We can have the mic status during sleep. Obviously, you probably want to turn it off during sleep, so you can set that up. And we can disable the onboard microphone if we choose. Now, even if you're not using the microphone that's on the camera, I would still leave it on because it does help it track you. Even when you decide to move off camera, you can just voice command it and it will find you. Here it has switch to mode, which enables you to use it with your switch to if you're going to do live streaming from there. You can mirror the image and view the gimbal reversed. So if you don't like how the gimbal works and you want to reverse it up, you can do that. Right here you can adjust the status light on the camera. So if you find it to be too bright, you can turn it down, you can turn it off. And you've got your virtual tracking, so you could set up different ways to actually control the camera from off this machine or whatever you want. You've got your firmware, feedback, and export the log, manual upgrades. So if you don't want the software to download firmware updates and stuff for your camera, you could do it manually, and you can restore factory settings. Up here, we've got a digital exhibition which will show you more about what your camera can do. We can explore also different camera types of OBSBOT, and we could go in here and set up some different things. So right here it tells you about which cameras you have connected, how they're connected. If you set it up with an IP or something like that, it will show up here. Here you can set up your output. You've got your hotkeys, and you can set all these up so you can just use the keyboards. Now OSC is just another way to connect, and you can connect and control pretty much the view, pan, tilt, all that sort of stuff. There are some OBS features that use this. They'll allow you to control this directly from your OBS control panel. And there are other software that does it as well. So that's where you would use OSC. And then of course we saw over here that you can turn it on right there. And then you've got your general settings. So let me show you how you would connect this to OBS. Alright, so the first thing that you should know is that when I say OBS, I really mean any application that takes a third-party camera. So it can be Zoom or Meld or anything else. They're all going to work essentially the same. So you're going to notice if I bring up OBS and I click the plus and I go to video capture devices, there are going to be a couple of different cameras that are associated with this particular camera. There is the OBSBOT Tiny, and if we have the virtual camera on, it will be listed. For now, let's just connect directly to the camera. We can go in and configure video and all that sort of stuff and click OK, but you could see we're not getting anything. And that's because we're not going to get the image for our camera if we're doing it directly, as long as we have this preview open. So we have to turn that preview off, and then we can go back into here and we can select another camera, drop it down, and select our tiny camera, and bada bing, now we've got a direct connection. Now we really can't use a lot of these features. So if we wanted to use beauty features and stuff like that that are built into the camera or built into the OBSBOT software, what we would have to do is go ahead and open this up. Now you'll see when we do that, it says the device is occupied because it's being used here. So what we're going to have to do is go into properties, and we're going to deactivate the camera for now. Click OK. Now when we come back over here, we should be able to activate it again, and boom. So now it's active again. So let's say we wanted to use some of the beauty features or something like that. Well, the easiest way to do that is to go over here and select virtual camera and click OK. So now when we go over here into OBS, we're going to right click, we're going to go back into our properties, and instead of selecting this tiny 3 streams camera, we're going to look for the OBSBOT virtual camera right there. And we're going to click OK. And we might have to close out OBS or even go ahead and remove this and re-add it in order to get it. So let's go ahead and click this. We're going to go to video capture device again. We'll re-add it. We'll drop this down, and we've got our OBSBOT Tiny 3 camera, which we know is being used, but our OBSBOT virtual camera, there we go. You could just right click, transform, and go ahead and fit to screen, and boom, that's what we get. But now we'll be able to go over here into our OBSBOT, and because we're using the virtual camera aspect, we could go ahead and add a background replacement, and there we go. So now when you're using the virtual camera, you're going to have access to all these features, whereby if you are using the direct camera, you will not. So that's the only real difference. Let's go ahead and put the OBSBOT microphone on so that you could see what it actually sounds like. All right, so now we are using the mic directly off the OBSBOT camera, and I don't know what it sounds like because I'm not actually listening to it. I'm still talking to you. But now you have an understanding of what it looks like. I am about 3.5 feet from the camera, and I'm going to move across the room to the back, talk to the microphone, give you an idea of how it works no matter where you are. I'm going to go ahead and have it lock on me. All right, so this is the microphone from all the way back here. And if I move around, you get an idea of what that microphone sounds like when I'm moving and all that fun stuff. Obviously, I should have probably changed how fast the camera was tracking me, but it is what it is. You guys can hear it and see whether the microphone is going to be something that works for you or whether you're going to want to have a static microphone like the one I use for all these videos. Let's go ahead and switch back. Now, as you can see in OBS, if we want our microphone to work, we got to go into properties and select the microphone. So if we come down here, we're going to use a custom audio device, and you can select the Tiny Microphone 3 from OBSBOT or any other microphone you have in your system. So that's how you do it. You can see I have the Tiny microphone selected in here, and there it is. It's working. It's going to be the same thing no matter what you use, whether it's OBS or Meld or Zoom or anything else that you're going to use your Tiny 3 on. You can select any microphone you want. Honestly, when you're live streaming, audio quality is pretty much the most important thing. You can theoretically say that video quality is the second most important thing, but I would say that video quality is actually probably farther down the list. Microphone quality is number one, and then being an entertaining host is probably number two. If you're entertaining, they don't really care if they're watching a potato screen. They're gonna laugh and have fun, and the only way that you can be entertaining is if you have a quality microphone. So number one. Every time you see me do these recordings, it's almost always a screen capture of what's going on, and it doesn't really give you a good idea of what the camera looks like natively. So this is the Tiny 3 being recorded in OBS at 24 frames per second in full 4K. I think it looks pretty good. Now this is without any of the screen blur on there, which it generally does pretty much right out of the box. So let's add that in and give it a little bit more of the DSLR flavor. Now I think this looks pretty good, but some people might hate it. The beautiful thing is you could turn it on or off, and I really do think this works pretty well. It does make it look like a DSLR camera. But one of the craziest and most amazing features about this particular camera is the fact that it's so good in low light. So let me close this door over here, turn off all the lights, and show you. Now this room is pitch black. It has blackout curtains, the door is closed. The only lights in the room are the accent lights in the back, which look absolutely awesome. And I have 2 monitors in the front. So those are the only lights that you're seeing. If I turned all those off, I think the picture would still be at least viewable. But with this little amount of light, I cannot believe how good this looks, especially for how tiny the aperture is in this camera. So this is about as pitch black as you would want to film, and it looks pretty good. This OBSBOT Tiny 3 is just such a cool camera. I'm really surprised at how well this thing does and how good it looks. It's just a nice camera. It's quality through and through. All aluminum body. It's not plastic junk. And you know what? Picture quality and feature wise, man, it's really hard to beat. Now that audio was totally unprocessed, and I'm sure that if you messed around with it, you could probably make it a lot better. With that being said, an external microphone is always preferable. Now, I think the Tiny 3 is an incredible value. It's running about $350. Does everything a small creator could possibly want. Awesome image quality, pretty decent audio, especially if you have the means to clean it up. But the PTZ aspects of it and being able to zoom and move it around and amazing low light capabilities make it a really, really good option. And to be honest, $350 is really, these days, just not that much money. But that's just what I think. What do you think? Let me know about it down in the comments. And if you want to check out the OBSBOT Tiny 3 camera for yourself, don't hesitate to click those links down below in the description and let me know what you think when you check it out. Now, if you want to see a video on some of the other OBSBOT PTZ cameras, well, here's a couple that you could check out for yourself. And if you're always looking for tools, tips, and tricks to help make you a better live streamer or YouTuber, subscribe to the channel. My name is Michael Fire Jr. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.